All right. Hello. Welcome. This is actually take 3. I didn't know that you had to push the record button. So I've been talking to myself for about 25 minutes. I do see the numbers rolling here. This is recording. Anyway, here we are again. But we're grateful to be speaking to you any way we can. It's nice that you are still watching these and taking notes and coming in and asking about that wine that we were talking about. It's very gratifying. So thank you. I know that you could be watching your favorite soap opera or who knows, Game of Thrones, but this apparently has some appeal. Whatever. We want to tell you about all the cool things happening at the Wine Steward this week, and I think we've already let on about this, and you've probably walked by and noticed, or maybe you've actually sat at a table in front of our store already, but we are in fact offering wines by the glass and by the bottle, and cheese and meat platters outside. We have 6 tables out there, so that's going all week long right now. And on the weekends, we're actually offering a little menu. It's nothing like the flight menu that we were doing upstairs on the mezzanine and that we will be doing again someday. But it is, in fact, a wines by the glass. You know, we've got sparkling wine, a couple of white offerings, and some red offerings. And once again, if you don't see exactly what you'd like, just come on in, grab your own beautiful bottle of wine, and we'll get it open for you. What is happening out there this Saturday, though, is kind of cool, where, yes, we'll have that by the glass thing going, but as soon as we get here at 10 o'clock, we'll set up those umbrellas, get those tables cleaned up and ready to go, and at the same time, our daughter Mary is going to be arriving with the baked goods that many of you have been ordering off of her website called Bloom's End. So if you haven't gone here yet, get on Bloom's End and sign up to get her little email notices. Is that going to stay? Yes. And you'll be getting alerts from her that say, okay, the store is now open and this is what I'm baking this week. And from a Monday through a Wednesday, or at least until she's sold out, sometimes it's just until Tuesday, and then she has enough orders to bake. At any rate, from Monday, usually through Wednesday, you can order these wonderful cakes and pies and cookies. Some of these are fully baked and ready to enjoy, and other things are actually in dough form. So she'll often do scone and biscuits and cookies that you can bake yourself at home. And believe me, I don't care how bad your oven is, because mine's pretty bad right now, but it is rendering her unbaked dough into amazing creations. So consider working with Bloom's End for all of your baked good needs. But back to this Saturday, what's happening is Mary's going to bring the things that have been ordered this week for you to pick up. We're a pickup point about every 2 weeks for her stuff. And what she's also bringing are a whole box of croissants that she will have baked this Saturday morning. She'll get up at 2 a.m., believe it or not, start baking croissants because you want those things fresh, right? So that happens in the kitchen that she's leasing in San Anselmo. Actually, it's in Sausalito. She lives in San Anselmo. She'll be baking up croissants, and we're thinking, how do we really do wine and croissants? Well, come on, it's Saturday morning. How about a glass of sparkling wine out in front of the store, along with a beautiful, freshly baked croissant? So let's do that together, shall we? And as far as what sparkling wine we'll be doing, I haven't even chosen it yet, but since I get to choose it, I'm kind of betting it's going to be Shannon Blanc based. You know that about me, don't you? So who knows? A beautiful sparkling wine from the Loire Valley of France, a beautiful croissant. Can't go wrong. So bloomsend.com. If you're not getting her emails yet, go to this website, blooms-end.com, and link up with Mary. And especially think in terms of the holidays. She's going to be baking up a storm, that's for sure. Hope she survives. We're tasting outside on Saturday. We're adding croissants to the fun. And why is this big bottle of Taittinger in front of me? You can say Taittinger, you can say Taittinger, but you can, either way you say it, you'll be right, and you'll be talking about a very nice champagne brand. So this is the real stuff from Champagne, France, a whole 3-liter of it. One of you lucky people can purchase this, of course, but 12 of you lucky people will be here next Wednesday evening, and 12 more next Thursday evening, out in front of the store, safely distanced, enjoying a whole flight of beautiful champagnes from Taittinger. So for what I would call a nominal fee, considering the amazing things you're about to taste, you will be enjoying a flight of the great wines of Taittinger. I keep saying it 2 different ways, but why not? Including their Comte de Champagne. That's their Tête de Cuvée. That's their big boy, and it's delicious. You're going to get to try that. You'll get to try this Brut Française, and each one of you attending gets a half bottle of this brut. So you may elect to take that half bottle home with you. If there's two of you, you've got 2 bottles. Why don't you open one during this event? So you've got your own personal half bottle of champagne to enjoy while you're tasting a flight of champagnes. How cool. You get to do a little side-by-side. We'll have 2 glasses out in front of everybody just to make that side-by-side tasting convenient and easy and fun. So what else do you get? As an attendee, you'll also get a beautiful little slab of nice nibbles that go along nicely with champagne. A very soft cheese from France is what we're planning on giving you, along with some probably Marcona almonds. There's some other things, maybe some cornichon. That would be a very traditional thing to do. And if I have it in me, and I think I will have it in me, I'll make my gougere. So every Christmas time or holiday time when we do our champagne event with Charles Neal, people have come to expect the gougere, which are really beautiful, delicate cheese puffy things that you might have with champagne over in France. I've learned how to make them, and they'll be coming hot out of the oven to your table, along with taste of Taittinger. This event may in fact be sold out, so I might be talking about something that we can't even offer you anymore, because I let everybody know, everybody who gets our emails at least, let everybody know yesterday. I've got a whole email box full of replies that I have yet to respond to and count up. I will reply to them in the order that I received them. If we still have space, consider doing this with us. But you'll have to email me for information about it. We're not going to post it on our website because we want to get the attendance right. We want to fill all 12 seats. We don't want to overbook. We don't want to unsafely seat people. So anyway, I apologize if that event has already filled up. But it's next Wednesday, next Thursday night. So 2 different nights for 12 people each. And it's going to be pretty doggone fun. It's so nice to have those chairs out there now. All right, we've covered that. Let's talk a little bit about Thanksgiving wines. Actually, let's talk a lot about them because that holiday is only 5 weeks away, and I think it deserves a little bit of practice. In other words, let's start buying and tasting some wines now and getting in the mood for that wonderful holiday, which I think is my absolute favorite holiday of the year, at least from a wine selling perspective, because it's when people are somewhat more open-minded about food and wine pairing instead of staying in their little maybe buttery Chardonnay rut that's what they drink all year long. They are willing to break out and do something that honors the meal. So people come in endlessly. I love this holiday because at Christmas time, people are a little out of their mind and not sure what they're asking for, and much of what they're buying is what they're giving. But at Thanksgiving, it's about them taking things home and thinking wholeheartedly about food and wine pairing, and I just love having the conversations down there. So what we're doing right now is converting our rosé display into our Thanksgiving wine display, which is a very easy transition to make because, in fact, whatever rosés remain down there, and they're still tasting great, by the way, they're all going to work with Thanksgiving dinner. But we've sold them down a little, made some room for other whites and reds that we think are going to go great with the bird and all the trimmings. So let's just go through some wines real quick. One of the most traditional things people enjoy, and maybe they don't even think about this kind of wine the rest of the year, are the white wines of Alsace. Alsace, France, on the eastern side, right next to Germany, and in some parts of history, it has in fact been part of Germany. You have wonderful white wines like Gewürztraminer, Riesling, Pinot Blanc. This is Pinot Blanc from a great producer over there called Trimbach. And Trimbach is well known here in the States and over there for making all of those great noble varieties of Alsace. Pinot Blanc is not actually numbered among the noble varieties. As I was talking about Pinot Bianco last week, same grape as Pinot Blanc, it is a grape that's only great from Alsace and maybe northern Italy, and no one else in the world really honors it. It's not necessarily a grape that aspires, but that's kind of the cool thing about this white wine. It's simply good. It's got wonderful stone fruit. It doesn't get any oak aging at all, and you don't necessarily want oaky wines with Thanksgiving dinner anyway. And it's nice and clean, refreshing, lower in the alcohol. It's got very mild fruit, like white fruit. It's pretty wine. So try the Pinot Blanc from Trimbach. It'll do nicely at the table, and it's a pretty bottle to have. And look, it's got Thanksgiving colors. Another wine type at least, that is very traditional for Thanksgiving dinner. You guys have all heard of Beaujolais Nouveau, I'm sure, and many of you have served Beaujolais Nouveau on Thanksgiving. It's a very traditional thing to do. That's a red wine made out of the Gamay grape in the Beaujolais region of France. And Beaujolais Nouveau, when you get that little Nouveau part added to it, that implies that the wine was grown just this last harvest. This wine was hanging off grapevines just like a couple months before it landed here at the store, literally. And it's a quick turn, and because they run it through something called carbonic maceration, you're able to drink this wine so early. And in fact, you don't want to age it. It's a wine that really only has a very short, let's say, half-life. you want to enjoy its happy fruit, Christmas and Thanksgiving, and then say goodbye to it. Do not age your Beaujolais Nouveau. In fact, some people would admonish you to not even drink Beaujolais Nouveau, but to get into serious Beaujolais. What is that? Beaujolais from... well, it's Gamay from Beaujolais that's fermented the more traditional way, where you crush the grape and ferment on the skins. So we're not talking about that. We will be talking about great Beaujolais, but we are in fact talking about Gamay. Gamay is a grape that grows elsewhere. So it's, of course, most famous from Beaujolais. We have one downstairs right now that I've just put onto the website that's from the Loire Valley of France. It's called De l'Aubel, and that is a beautiful Gamay from the Loire. So I hope you will check that out. I'm calling it a great Thanksgiving dinner wine as well. But this one comes from the Willamette Valley of Oregon. This is a wine that we were selling on our Thanksgiving display last year. Our vendor came in the other day, reminded us that he had a couple cases left of this Ayres, A-Y-R-E-S. Not sure how well you can see that, but this is a Gamay from the Willamette Valley. And it is beautiful. It's complex in the nose. It's about the same size as Pinot Noir, but it's got a little more spice to it. Aromatically, and it's very gentle on the palate, kind of medium-bodied. I think you want to serve it in a Pinot Noir glass, glass like this, which happens to have Chardonnay in it right now, because we'll be talking about it. And it is a wine that's endangered. I think I bought the last 2 cases available. So get in on the Ayres if you want to try Gamay from a non-Beaujolais place. How about that? Ayres from Oregon. Like I said, this is the time of year and the holiday during which people get a little more adventurous in their wine drinking. And they come in asking us for advice, and we get to point them to wines they never would have thought of asking for. Maybe they didn't even know there was such thing as white wine from Fougères, France. And you're saying, where? And I've known about Fougères for a long time, but I didn't even know that white wine came from Fougères, France. I thought it was only a red wine region. Where are we? We're in the southwest part of France, near the Mediterranean, near the Pyrenees, visiting a region called Fougères. So this is white wine from Fougères. It's actually going to go to our white wine club in a month or two. But in the meantime, we do have a little bit of this amazing wine, which reminds me a lot of Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc, except in price. Châteauneuf-du-Pape Blanc, white wine from Châteauneuf-du-Pape. Châteauneuf makes only like 5% white, and it's always expensive, always $50 on up, sometimes 75 or more. And yet this wine behaves like it in that it's rich and it's got energy, kind of a rare thing for white wine to have both at the same time. And it's somewhat in flavors, but once again, not in price. That's the cool thing. You go to this no man's land called Fougères, you have white wine that you didn't know existed, and you can sometimes get a great bargain. This is actually made by a guy in the Northern Rhone who goes down to do this special project elsewhere in Fougères. It is made of 1/3 each Grenache Blanc, no big surprise, that's kind of the workhorse grape of the south of France, and Roussanne, which is the most perhaps elegant Rhone varietal. That's a white wine that our friend Peter Stoltman works on, by the way, down in Ballard Canyon. And stay tuned for some Stoltman news. We're going to do a Zoom with him. How about that? But again, getting off topic, 1/3 Grenache Blanc, 1/3 Roussanne, which adds to the richness of this wine. So where do you get the energy that I was talking about? Where do you get the zing? The life of this wine is in the third, and that's Vermentino. Sometimes they call it Rolle, R-O-L-L-E, in the south of France. Vermentino is the wine that was represented by a 6-bottle sampler earlier this year that many of you enjoyed. So now you get to have a little Vermentino, make it nice with Roussanne and Grenache Blanc in a fantastic white wine that I promise you will do well with a turkey dinner. It's got opulent, almost fruit cocktail style fruit, and so it goes well with those dishes on your Thanksgiving table that are nearly sweet in flavor. I'm thinking of the yams and stuffing and stuff like that. Some really crazy flavors going on. You need a wine like this that can handle that. Another white wine that can handle it. By the way, this is on the website. It's a very hard label to read, hard thing to pronounce. Côte Brune, Fougères Blanc. You know, it's easier to order and to pay for. I can tell you the price is right for how much complexity you're getting. Look for this on the website, thewinesteward.com. Apply your club code. And if you can't remember it, email me. Apply your club code to get 10% off the price you're looking at, all right? Another white wine, because whites and reds and pinks do so wonderfully with Thanksgiving dinner. I think it's nice to have several offerings going on. you've already got all these crazy, the amazing panoply of dishes. Why not have just all these bottles lined up too? So you get, it's a carnival of flavor, right? This is Shannon Blanc. You knew you weren't going to get away from me or get out of this store without hearing about Jim touting his favorite white grape. I often call it the best grape in the world, Shannon Blanc, and I only do that to start a conversation because for some of us, we there's some, we got some baggage about Shannon. We think of it as grandma's jug wine. It is actually, when it's grown in the right place, perhaps the best grape in the world. This grows in an area called Mont-Louis-sur-Loire, which is right across the Loire River from a slightly better known Shannon Blanc place called Vouvray. Shannon Blanc in both places is done bone dry, it's done a little bit sweet, it's done very sweet in some years, and it's also done as sparkling wine. And I've already alluded to the sparkling wine that I love that we'll probably be doing with Mary's Croissants this Saturday. Shannon can do that marvelously. This is a Shannon that is fairly dry. It's called Les Roches de Violette, and I'm gonna try some because it comes with a screw cap. So it's just too easy. You could watch me pulling out a cork for 5 minutes, or let's see. There it is. The beautiful thing about Shannon is, somewhat as I was describing the last white wine, it can have a richness and zing at the same time. And once again, that's a rare white wine experience that provides both. So what we expect and what I'm getting here are green apples. So there's some zing and lemon curd. And there's something amazing about certain Loire Valley Shannon Blancs that few others in the world can do. And that is the sense of walking into a damp cave. And I don't know what does it, but it's a Loire Valley Shannon thing. And it might sound weird, but when you smell it, you nod your head and you say, I get it. Yeah, it smells like moisture. Even when you're, obviously the wine's wet, right? Duh. But it is that dampness, almost champignon, which is white button mushroom, like a very clean white mushroom. I think you know what I mean. But what's prevalent are the green apple and the lemon curd. And now we're going to find out, because there's an implication of sweetness here in the nose, if this wine is in fact sweet. How about that? Oh my God, this is bone dry. This has such beautiful nerve. It's really anxious wine. It's got the richness, but it's got the anxiety of a high acid white. It will love Thanksgiving dinner. I'm gonna just sip for a while. You can just watch, all right? Don't you hate these videos? I've got this at room temperature right now. I've already told you before that I like to assess wine even when it's white at a warmer temperature so I can fully know it. And then of course I'll chill it down and have it at a more proper cooled down temp. But this is screaming everything right now. It's really nice. It's on the website, Les Roches de Violette, Shannon Blanc from Mont-Louis-sur-Loire. Okay, so that's right across the Loire River from Vouvray. Now, what, people, is the most popular red wine for Thanksgiving? What do people just automatically do when they walk through the door and they're buying their wine for Thanksgiving? Where do they head? Not to the Cabernet section necessarily. They go straight for the Pinot, right? This is the time of the year when we really bulk up our Pinot selection. We're adding a couple every week. I've gone crazy. There's some great stuff down there that you might not have seen on our rack all year long. And this is included. This is a brand new arrival. That is not new to us in name. This is by a very old friend of ours, Kenwright. We often call him the Nickel and Nickel of the Willamette Valley in Oregon, in that Nickel and Nickel in the Napa Valley makes about a dozen different single vineyard Cabernets every year. What does Kenwright do? He makes about a dozen different single vineyard Pinot Noirs every year from the great Willamette Valley of Oregon, one of the greatest Pinot Noir places in the entire world. So here's this new one for us. This is from Latchkey Vineyard, a vineyard I had not yet heard of. But as soon as I tasted this wine, I said, let's go, let's do this. Especially when I heard the price. What seems to happen from Kenwright every year on our behalf is a very good wholesale on one wine that he has selected for us to kind of make a little money on and give you a better deal on. The Kenwright single vineyard Pinots tend to sell for the high 50s, something like $57 or $58. Not this one, not right now. We're getting into the low 40s, and I think we actually dip into the 30s when you apply your club discount on thewinesteward.com or come in with a mask on and give us your name up front so we can give you your wine club member discount. It's beautiful Pinot Noir. It's fully ripe. Maybe we don't always think of ripeness when we think of Oregon Pinot Noir because they can have some more, an emphasis on earth and ash. This has some of that, but it was a nice ripe year too. So you get this very beautiful perky fruit, very high toned, and it's a wine you want to swirl a lot. So move the wine a lot in your glass. And in fact, let's talk about a glass real quick. This is called the New World Pinot Noir glass that I'm messing with your heads and cupboard space about, because what we've told you all along, all these years, is that you need this glass for great Pinot Noir and also for oaky Chardonnay and things like that. Well, now I'm getting them both out and deciding per bottle which I'd rather be using for my Pinot, for my Northern Rhone Syrah, for my Barolo and Barbaresco, that's Great Nebbiolo from Piedmont, Italy, and I'm trying other wines out on this glass as well. And I'm often preferring this. I think this glass is still super useful. Don't go home and throw these away, but get into these. And this is just a little announcement to let you know that 3 more cases of these are arriving today. We've only started to sell these about a month ago and told you about them, and you wiped us out. So here comes some more today. In about an hour, the truck will arrive, and we'll have some more New World Pinot Noir glasses just in time for Thanksgiving. I think you should go home and enjoy side-by-sides. Be a great wine inquirer and wonder. Apply your sense of wine wonder to stemware. I love the way different stems say different things about a wine. And sometimes it's not one being better than the other. Sometimes it's just difference, like you get different aspects of a wine based on stemware shape. It's pretty cool. If you haven't done that before, you should. Anyway, beautiful Pinot Noir, Kenwright, not the typical high 50s price this time around. You're in the low 40s, maybe even high 30s when you get that club discount in there. All right, Kenwright, nice Pinot. What's another red grape that we tell you about at Thanksgiving time? Well, if it's me telling you about it, you know that you're going to hear Jim talk about perhaps his favorite red grape, Grenache. This is just to say that we probably have a dozen or so bottles of this beautiful Grenache from Australia left. And once we've run out of it, I will tell you about another Grenache and then another Grenache after that, because especially for Thanksgiving, nothing can beat the beautiful kirschy kind of fruit pie filling, cherry pie filling. I often say steaming hot pie on a windowsill kind of a quality that great Grenaches give you. And yet it's not oaky. You don't want to give a lot of oak barrel time to a Grenache. That would be to just crowd out what it really wants to say. And it wants to say fruit, cherry fruit, raspberries, cherry, kirsch, which is cherry liqueur. It's gorgeous wine. And when we run out of this, like I said, I'll just show you another Grenache. We've got it from the Rhone Valley. We've got it from Spain and so on. It's a grape best known as a Rhone grape because they grow a lot of it in the southern Rhone. It's the base of Chateauneuf de Pape and Gigondas and wines like that. It actually came from Spain, where they call it Garnacha, and now it's all over the world, including Australia here. So from Thorne Clark, less than 400 cases made, beautiful Grenache. What am I going to put in front of you now is kind of interesting because it's going to be Chardonnay. And if you've been talking to us about Thanksgiving wines all these years, you haven't necessarily been led straight to the Chardonnay display, have you? We don't always do that because we don't always promote Chardonnay for that meal, because so many of you think of Chardonnay as a big oaky buttery wine, and many of them are, and I'm not sure that's the best thing for that meal. And yet it is the best thing for that meal if that's what you want to drink. Okay, so drink your oaky cabs, drink your oaky Chards, that's fine. Are you happy? We want you to be happy. However, if you're still obsessed with food and wine, please, please, please choose a Chardonnay that's more modest with its oak, its apparent oak flavors, and avoids being buttery. So how do you avoid being buttery when you make Chardonnay? One thing to do is grow it in a cool place with a lot of limestone, like Burgundy. So white Burgundies do really well with that meal. We're going to tell you about, though, a California Chardonnay that's just arrived, just landed on our shelves, and we're among the first to have it. This is a wine that does not see malolactic fermentation. So that's another way to kind of restrain a Chardonnay and to show off its more classy vibrancy rather than oaky buttery qualities. And as you're looking at this label, maybe you're peering a little closer and saying, that looks familiar, but wait, I've never heard of this. This is called Post and Beam. And yes, if it looks familiar, it is in fact because it's made by the folks who make Farniente and Nickel and Nickel. This is a new project by them, a wine that's priced a little bit below those glamour brands, you could call them. And it's meant to be drunk now, and yet it follows very much in the style of Farniente Chardonnay, Nickel and Nickel Chardonnay, En Route Chardonnay. That's Nickel and Nickel's Russian River project that also makes a great no malolactic fermentation Chardonnay. All of the wines in that line and this don't see malolactic. They're not designed to give you the big gratifying oaky buttery thing. They're designed to make you hungry and to give you a drink that goes amazingly with food. And did you happen to know that higher acid wines that don't go through ML, tend to age longer too? So it's kind of nice to have a wine like this a little later on. But we're gonna try it right now. I can't wait. I have an open bottle over here. And believe it or not, this bottle, opened 3 days ago, is still saying its stuff really well. Again, room temperature. I want to fully assess, and this wine smells so damn good, but not in an oaky way. You know, it's not, I'm not getting the popcorn butter either. Lively, a little bit of the lemon I was talking about with respect to the Shannon Blanc from the Noir. There is some richness to it. There's some baked apple, maybe some pear. Wonderful acidity. I'm getting hungry. I want to pair this with food, and I definitely recognize that family resemblance that it is supposed to have with Nickel and Nickel Chardonnays, with Farniente Chardonnay. Nice thing is it costs less. Nice thing is the wine steward is among the very, very few to even have this yet. This was meant to go entirely exclusively to restaurants. Well, as you know, restaurants aren't faring too well right now, and this wine has to be sold somewhere. So they chose the wine steward because we have a very long and flourishing relationship with those folks at Farniente Nickel and Nickel, don't we? So I'm so proud to be carrying this lively wine, which is still singing in my mouth long after I've swallowed some. So I told you Post and Beam is doing Chardonnay, and now look at that. There's a Cabernet Sauvignon counterpart from the same folks. A wine that prices well under half the price of Nickel and Nickel and Farniente Cabernets. This is the Cabernet that's just called Napa Valley. I guess it visits different parts of that valley to make a wine that is a little more ready to drink, perhaps less prodigious in body and in durability. But durability is not what you're really asking about when you have this like half price Farniente wine, actually 1/3 price. I have it here in open bottle form, as usual. And there's no lack of character going on here. This has all of the blackberry, black raspberry, pain gris. It's basically burnt toast, but it sounds better in French. Earth, dusty earth. That nice, I don't know, maybe some of the grapes came from Rutherford because I'm getting some Rutherfordian qualities here. Very mild-mannered on the tongue. This wine is very ready to drink. It reminds me the most of a wine that we're also selling downstairs called Cufflinks Cabernet. Cufflinks is a Cabernet we gave to the Red Collector Club a little while back, and that you folks have been buying ever since. That's a very nice other mild-mannered Napa Valley Cabernet. Keep buying that, but get into this as well. So proud to have this wine and this wine from Post and Beam, the Nickel and Nickel Farniente people. I think that's about it. We've covered it all, but just to wrap it up, we'll say, yes, we're tasting outside. If you want to come and visit us this weekend when the weather should be awesome, I highly recommend you ask for a table to be reserved for you, because with just 6 tables out there, they go fast. And this Saturday, come in early for a croissant and a glass of sparkling wine. How about that? And then if it hasn't sold out yet, consider next week's Taittinger event with great champagne and nibbles and your own half bottle of the same stuff. And start planning for Thanksgiving. Start practicing. Start coming in and checking out that Thanksgiving display. Go home, practice, work on that dish that you've been thinking about doing this time, and make it 3 times until you got it perfected, and then can debut it on Thanksgiving to the rest of the crowd. Anyway, we're so grateful for everything you're doing with us, and just can't wait to taste some more of this wine. So I'm going to sign off now after I do my usual final pose that the engineers of these videos have asked me to do. I don't know, maybe this goes on Google somewhere. So I'm gonna get all like Robert Parker in this glass now. How about this? Frown. I've got the forehead, don't I? Thank you. Have a great weekend.